Oakley dokley, neighbor. All right, kids, it's time once again. We are back. This is episode 93 of the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I'm your host for all those episodes, Rob Fanzo, joined once again by Matt Porter Bridges Rhodes.
Hey-o. No alliteration, but I'll take that, though.
Yeah. I thought I'd call you the Porter Bridges since, you've been doing a little Death Stranding lately. So how you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Robert. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Matt, we've got a good show lined up for people this week. We're going to talk a little bit about PlayStation 5 news that popped up just today, actually, that some people are pretty upset about. We're going to talk a little bit about PlayStation's 25th anniversary, all the way from PS1 to PS4. We're going to talk a little bit about Blue Point Games and their continued teasing, and a couple of games that may be coming in February next year to cram it a little bit more than it already is crammed for that first quarter next year. Plus, we'll talk about Sony State of Play that's coming up next week, too. So before we do that, though, I do want to remind people, if you like what you hear, you can go find us over on patreon.com/weare1ur2 and help us keep the mics on by donating $1. It really does help us out with the costs of running a podcast, although I do enjoy paying it out of my own pocket. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, listen to us on Google Play, Stitcher, Patreon, Podbean, YouTube, everywhere and anywhere, typically by Wednesday every noon. Now, Matt, the holidays are coming up, but you and I have a few episodes we're going to record ahead of time so that we never miss a week or try not to. And so we're also quickly approaching that 100th episode. So that's kind of exciting, too. I can't actually believe that. It doesn't sound real.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, right.
It doesn't sound real to me. It doesn't sound like I've actually been doing this for, over 2 years. Doesn't make sense. So, before we get started, though, I do want to go ahead and talk a little bit about what we've been playing. And so I've already pulled you in with Death Stranding. So why don't you talk to us about what you have been playing, since I kind of roped you in with that?
Well, obviously, I've been talking about I've been playing some Death Stranding. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Are you back into it now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was kind of trying to figure out exactly like what I wanted to do with, whether I should finish Control or get back into Death Stranding just a little bit. And I've gotten back into Death Stranding just a little bit. Dip my toe back in the water, if you will, just because I wanted to make sure, not make sure, but I kind of wanted to go back to it, right? I didn't want to go too far away from it.
Yeah, that can be tough.
Right. Because I know that I'm going to play it, during my surgery. So I kind of wanted to get back into it a little bit, give my mind a bit of a refresher. And I'm still very early in the game, right? I'm only on chapter or episode 2. So I'm still kind of feeling my way through what's happening and what's, going on with the actual game. But of course, I've been playing, obviously, Rocket League and Fortnite. But I will definitely be getting back into Control this week. I'll probably try to finish it this week, if possible.
I think you should. It's worth it.
But like I said, I just wanted to kind of at least dip my foot back into Death Stranding to kind of, see what was going on. I was kind of mad at one point because, I was walking through, the rain or whatever, and so it's oh, your crates are ruined. I was like, well, this is a main mission level. I don't understand. And then when I got there, it's 0 damage. I was like, okay.
Yeah, so the containers can get ruined, right? But as long as you don't fall, typically you don't have an issue with the other stuff.
Okay,
and
that makes more sense.
Yeah, that stuff can totally fall. Or totally be an issue where you're falling and stuff is, getting damaged that way. Or if you're lucky, if you traverse the whole time, it doesn't matter. Now, that goes for the packages you're delivering. If it's metals or weapons, that stuff will actually get ruined by the time fall.
Yeah, that
if you're
makes
out
sense.
in it too long. Because I've had that happen to me several times, and that was kind of irritating. I threw away several grenades, several guns, and several pieces of metal and stuff like that that were just completely wrecked.
Okay, that makes sense. The containers would be ruined, but not. Okay, I get that. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I like it. I don't know. It's pretty great. I feel like it's done well. I do kind of get things as far as like the memes of like, or like the things that I've said about like how, or read about like, where it's just basically like data management and like you're just like in like the menus. I could see how you can be in the menus for a long time. As far as like managing like where you're going to put things and, like what you're going to take and things like that. So I get that, those kind of like negative, quote unquote, negative aspects of it. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's pretty great so far. So I'm pretty excited to continue with it, obviously. But I do want to finish Control completely before I dive completely headlong into it. I was just trying to do enough to kind of open up that chapter 3, which helps like connect you a lot better to everything else. I haven't quite gotten there yet.
Yeah, and you will. I mean, you will.
Well, what have you been playing, Robert?
I played a ton of Death Stranding actually this week. I'm probably, my understanding is after you get through the first 8 chapters, 9 through 14 kind of fly. I'm close to finishing. I think I left off on 7 or 8. I looked it up and I think I'm on the edge of 7. Like I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing triggers one of those almost like boss battles that the few that the game has. And so I knew I'll move from either 7 to 8 or 8 to 9. And then based on what the title of that next one is, I know that's going to be quick. So I'll fly through that. And then from my understanding, I'll be at the point where it just becomes almost more movie-like. Right. And so there are still, I guess, some deliveries and stuff like that. Now, I've avoided spoilers, but I can tell that I'm going to flow through that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I've been touching that. I did a little bit of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order just to kind of keep up with it.
Oh, wait. I forgot. I completely finished Jedi Fallen Order.
It's such a great game, so memorable that you totally forgot.
Well, it was so early. It was like pretty much right after we got off the podcast. I like played the crap out of it the rest of the weekend and beat it last week. So I guess that's why I kind of slipped my mind. But it was great. I loved it. I'm excited to have you get to where I am, which is obviously complete the game, so we can talk more about it. Maybe do a spoiler cast.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about Death Stranding. I really want you to get to where you need to be with that so that we can have a spoiler. So we'll have a couple of spoiler casts. We'll try not to, by then most people will have either finished the game or be not care to pick it up. And so I don't think we'll be ruining anybody's day if we spend some time talking about it.
Right.
So that's probably what we'll end up doing and go from there. I do think that I will probably finish Death Stranding over the weekend.
Okay.
At some point.
Yeah.
I guess this is the weekend, but I assume that I'll be able to finish it maybe, if not tomorrow, definitely Monday sometime. I can just feel that like if I sink enough time into it, I can do it. Right. And so I'll probably move right into Fallen Order and finish that by the time we do the next podcast. That's my goal. And then I've got a nice backlog that I want to really hit up over the next couple of weeks, including stuff like Blasphemous and a couple of VR games that I've had sitting around for a while that I never finished. Blood and Truth being one of them. So I think I'll get there. I think this is going to be a good opportunity for me to really knock out everything that I've wanted to knock out over the last couple of days, or a couple of months. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
This is a good time of the year to do that. That's what I love about right now is that there's nothing big coming out. So just real quick to wrap up what I've been playing. I also played a lot of Astral Chain on my Switch this week.
Okay. And
that game is just so good. That gets me super excited for Platinum Games' next game, which I was reading about today in a little prediction piece for the State of Play. And so I definitely want to look into that some more because I forgot that was announced at E3 2018, actually for this year. And I don't think it's coming out this year unless they do like a stealth drop during the State of Play next week, which would be phenomenal. But I think it's a multi-platform title. So I don't foresee that happening.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, though.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened.
Very true.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing. I've been pretty singularly focused in what I feel like is a very good way.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. I love it. So Matt, let's if that's all that we've been playing, I guess we should move into In Case You Missed It this week, shall we?
We shall, Robert.
So I'm going to start us off, and I want you to stick with me on this because I don't know if you heard this or not, because I know you haven't been playing Death Stranding the way I have. But one of the big complaints about Death Stranding has been, and this is the first news story, I don't have it on the doc, but I do want to talk about it, has been the amount of vehicles that have been abandoned in the game. And once you get to chapter 3, you'll see more what I'm talking about. The problem is that one of the places you have to go to, most people to get there accidentally drive their vehicle off a cliff. And what ends up happening is it ends up blocking that place that you have to enter. And so other players in their games are finding out that they cannot get to that place because there are vehicles there. And unless you have bombs or something to blow up the vehicle, enough ammunition, it basically stops you from completing a side quest.
Wow.
And so it's supposed to go live sometime in the middle of December, but there is a patch coming for Death Stranding where you can actually, the way you can remove structures in the game by just hitting the options button and then deleting it, you'll be able to do that with vehicles now too.
Okay.
And I will say, as somebody who's, over halfway through the game, it is amazing when I'm driving through America, quote unquote, the amount of vehicles that I see laying around that are rusting or that are there that somebody abandoned to climb a mountain, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've seen quite a bit of those. It's kind of funny in a way, I guess, but it happens.
You're right. It does.
Yeah. So those are I know I've left several vehicles behind, and it happens. You get to a part and you try to race up it or down it. And you're like, I can't cross this with that bike or that truck. And so you just pull everything out of it, stack it on you as best as you can, or your floating carrier, and you continue on. And then that vehicle just rusts away or sits there for someone else to use.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. You'll see when you get to that. So this is another one I thought actually was interesting. I wanted your opinion on this. It's been kind of a slow week, but Sony's streaming service, PlayStation Now, is back with more games for December 19. And you'll actually be able to get to play one of the Battle Royale games, PlayerUnknown Battleground, is joining the streaming service and is available to stream and download until March 3rd of 2020. You also get F1 2019 and Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. And so these are the PUBG actually becomes the fourth game that will only be part of PlayStation Now service for a limited time. And I just want to know what you thought of that. Do you care that PUBG is on there? Do you care that it's free on PlayStation Now? Do you think it's smart to have it as part of the limited time?
I mean, I think that it'll give people who really want PUBG a reason to maybe get PlayStation Now.
Okay.
Maybe. But it doesn't do anything for me personally.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Somebody who plays Fortnite, would this want you to jump in to try this out?
Listen, Rob, you've already given me the crack pipe called Fortnite, okay? Don't be trying to give me a second PUBG crack pipe, okay?
Well, that's what I was wondering, because I think if you were interested in PUBG at this point, you probably would have already played it.
Yeah, I kind of understand that.
Because I also think, too, that it's so janky on PlayStation 4, from what I've heard, that PC is the only place really to play it. And so I don't know how many people this is affecting or who are interested in this. And it's kind of funny because they announced God of War, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Uncharted 4, and they put Persona 5 on there, I believe. But I feel like this is kind of the first miss, if I can say. I feel like they should have stuck to another first-party game being on there.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen something else, maybe even newer, make its appearance on there to really pull us in. A good example would be maybe something that, since it came out way earlier this year and it's already kind of sold incredibly well, Days Gone would have been an amazing add to that service.
Yeah.
But PUBG seems kind of like a weak choice.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's a great choice personally, but
especially one to rotate out.
Right.
This other little piece I thought kind of stuck out to me too. I thought was kind of interesting. According to a lot of online speculation and according to a lot of leaked art that seems very real and seems to be the worst kept secret, the PS1 Resident Evil 3 seems to be, or I'm sorry, yeah, Resident Evil 3 remake seems to be very imminent, right?
Yeah,
Resident Evil 3 was on PS1, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, it was. I had to think about that. That's why I hesitated saying that, but it was. It was on the original PlayStation, but that is very... Have you seen that then?
Have I seen... No.
That Resident Evil 3 remake?
No, because I don't really care about Resident Evil. I think you know that. But I will say that
true.
I did see a article about how they said that the Game Awards have had no leaks. So, because there was speculation that they were going to reveal the Resident Evil 3 remake at the Video Game Awards, but the guy who runs it, I forget the guy's name, but he said there have been no leaks. So that kind of put the kibosh on the fact that that might be being announced at the Video Game Awards. So
yeah, Keighley.
Yeah, Keighley. Yes,
Jeff
thank
Keighley.
you.
Yeah, Jeff Keighley. He's pretty much talked about how he did an AMA this past week where he talked about how Resident Evil 3 was not one of the 15 games they had to show off. And so I don't want to jump around too much, but we'll get back to that in a little bit. I think Resident Evil 3 is going to appear sometime next week, or by the time this podcast is out, it should have already appeared. And we'll talk about why in a minute.
Yeah.
But that has been floating around for the last 2 weeks and apparently is going to come sometime next year. Now, Black Friday has come and gone. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently Microsoft won this year's battle to the bottom in Britain where it sold over 100,000 consoles, whereas Nintendo Switch sold something like 60,000 and PS4 sold less than that. They sold something like 30 or 40,000 only.
Wow.
And so I thought that was interesting. A little too late for Microsoft, but I think it was kind of hard for people to pass up because it was such a cheap bundle. It was something like 129 pounds and included 3 games.
Wow. Yeah.
And if you think about, if you think about how many, even if those games are 30 pounds a piece, you're talking about getting the Xbox for less than 40 pounds. And so that is insane. That's like giving it away, basically.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's pretty great.
And so I think that Sony system, I also think that everybody who could own a PlayStation at this point or wants to own one has owned one or does have one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are just waiting for PlayStation 5 now.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I just can't see many people waiting anymore for a PlayStation 4. I think they're just ready to move on at this point.
Yeah, even like, because my girlfriend was asking about getting like peripherals for me for like the PlayStation 4. I was like, honestly, don't get me anything PlayStation related, controllers, headsets, whatever. Like, there's a new one coming out in a year, and I'm definitely going to buy everything for that one that comes out. So,
yeah,
I will maybe use it maybe for a year, maybe. I'd rather just kind of run the ones I have into the ground. Yeah,
I hear you. I'm the same way. So PS1, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I completely understand why people wouldn't want to jump, buy anything PlayStation or buy a new PlayStation 4 right now or buy anything PlayStation related because of that.
Yeah, agreed. So I wanted to give us a little bit of, as PlayStation's anniversary was this past week, I did want to mention this. I thought this was really great because I didn't know this and I saw this pop up this week. PS1's iconic startup sound, right? Mm-hmm. That beautiful sound was actually specifically designed to detect issues with the console's CD drive. And so
interesting.
Takafumi Fujisawa told Game Informer this past week that the function of this sound is to tell the user that the hardware is running like it is supposed to and that the disk has successfully been read. Huh. To add, the swooshing reverse sound is designed so that it can go into loop if the disk couldn't be read and we can understand if something went wrong. And that sound, he went on further to say, was created in 2 days. I kept thinking from the start that I wanted the sound image to be something exciting, like that feeling of when you walk into a cinema. I really wanted to communicate and reinforce that something fun is going to happen. And so I thought that was really cool. I had no idea that was more of a test noise than an actual real function on the PlayStation.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I thought it was just kind of a way to distinguish themselves.
Yeah. But it was not.
Which is funny because that's part of the most iconic sound and the sound that people love hearing the most when you think about PlayStation, the way that most of them start up. In fact, that's still, out of all the PlayStation consoles, that's still probably my favorite sound.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of the PS3's firing up.
Really?
The PS4 is, I don't like that that's, I don't know. I just don't like it. 4 is okay. 4 is, kind of been replaced because it fires up and has that melody before you log in. But once you log in, because of the backgrounds you can choose, there's nothing as distinct, I think, as that initial PlayStation.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I also thought this ties into PlayStation's 25th anniversary this past week in Game Informer. They were talking to Herman Hulst, the Dutchman who has taken over the president position from Shuhei Yoshida, right, of Worldwide Studios. And I thought this was interesting. Here's what I thought he had to say, and I just want your thoughts on this. He said, quote, "Games have fully now entered the mainstream of pop culture media. That is both amazing and exciting. Our challenge as creators is to be meaningful to so many people while simultaneously cherishing the counterculture aspects that make gaming the quirky, odd, off-kilter, surprising, and sometimes shocking expressions they need to be. Our collective voices as game devs have become more diverse and therefore more interesting as a result. It's exciting to look at a future where people around the world start seeing games as something significant, something sincere, and something worthwhile." And so what do you think of that quote from him? What do you get out of that?
I mean, I think that things are sincere and worthwhile already. I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty, I don't know. I guess we'll see how it kind of progresses, but I mean, I feel like that's kind of already happening maybe. I mean,
yeah, you mean with it being something that's seen as sincere and significant and worthwhile?
Yeah. I mean, I maybe like with like Death Stranding kind of doing a different thing where it's kind of like, supposed to be like this work of art. Maybe kind of that's what he means by that. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like I understand where he's coming from, but I think it's already happening in my opinion. Maybe it's just because I'm a gamer or, I don't know. I think a lot of the things that are being developed story wise and, indie or otherwise are, very much worthwhile, worth my time, worth my money.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think what was interesting that he did say was something about the section where he said, we want to cherish the countercultural aspects that make gaming quirky, odd, off-kilter, surprising, and sometimes shocking. And I was thinking about this gen, and I was thinking about maybe like the PS2 era this week. And I don't know that we've gotten as many quirky or weird games this gen as we're used to during the PlayStation 2 era. That's when we really had stuff like Crash and Spyro and Jack and Dexter. And you had a couple other oddball, like then you had like the creepy ones like Silent Hill games. You still had some RE games. You just got a wide variety. And I feel like we've gotten a lot of the sameness this gen.
Yeah, maybe to a certain extent, but I feel like with the arrival of like survival horror games, not to say that, Silent Hill and Resident Evil aren't like that, but I feel like they've certainly become like more intense. I mean, I'm thinking like of Outlast where you don't even fight anybody. You just have to run, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's kind of like a different aspect. I think that's kind of odd and quirky in that way. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do see where you're coming from, where there could definitely be more things that, could be odd or quirky. But at the same time, I feel like because the gaming industry has been around for so long now, it's been one of those things where like, what do you do to surprise, in the next generation? People? Yeah, exactly. Like, what do you do to kind of see what they've done as far as that goes? You know what I mean?
I agree. And actually, that's what I was really excited about Death Stranding for, because it was such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
To me. Now, some of it is very Kojima and very Metal Gear-ish. However, I'd say like the first 20 hours are not at all, right? The part you're at, the walking, the delivering packages, the bizarreness of the whole thing, it was very different, right? It wasn't another third-person action adventure game. It was kind of like a glorified or AAA walking simulator. But There's more to it than that. I don't want to simplify it either with that. And so that's what I enjoy. And so I hope we get more games like that, or more games like Medieval, because Medieval was so much fun for me to play. And it reminded me of how we got those weird games in PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era that weren't big budget, but still has Sony's backing. And so like Concrete Genie is a good example, even though it didn't sell well, of a game that's different, right? And that tries to do something different. It's just a shame it wasn't promoted in the same way that it could have been. So,
right.
All right. Well, speaking of old games made new, Blue Point Games has been tasked with, of course, creating something, and they've been putting out all those weird tweets lately. Well, according to President Marco Thrush this past week, he said that there's no question in our minds that the current project will become the achievement we're most proud of. And that's all he said in an interview with Segment Next. And so it sounds like they are going to be super pumped to reveal whatever this is, and apparently is going to be huge for them. And so whether it's Demon Souls, an original IP, which I doubt, or something more like Siphon Filter remake or remaster, they are clearly going to be super happy with whatever they are doing over there for Sony. And so I feel like it's going to be a PlayStation 5 launch game. I think whatever it is a day one PlayStation 5 launch game. I don't think we'll see it at State of Play. I think we'll see it at E3 though.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
That's exciting. Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Same. Speaking of stuff I'm excited for, I don't know if you saw this at all. I wanted to play this game on PS3 so badly and I never got to it. But apparently it has been leaked, and I went to Xbox's storefront to double check for myself, and I did see it there. But there's apparently Vanquish, the PS3 game by Platinum Games, is being remastered for 4K visuals, 60 frames per second, and scheduled to release on either the 17th or 18th of February 2020. Now, what's been updated since then is that apparently it's going to be sold in a bundle with Bayonetta. And so you could get Bayonetta and Vanquish at remastered for this gen, which I would be happy with because I actually missed out on, I think, the original Bayonetta, and I missed out on Vanquish last gen, and I just never went back for them. And so I would love to have both of them. Those are two games I would love to have a chance to crack open and play on the PS4. My problem with them is that they're coming in February in a already crowded spring with Final Fantasy VII, Cyberpunk, Last of Us in May, and a couple other games coming out in that March timeframe as well that are a big deal. So, but we'll see. Do you care for either one of those?
I kind of missed the boat with Bayonetta as well. I feel like I've played one or played a demo of one maybe at some point, and it seemed like a great game, but just never really kind of got into it and never really did much because of it. And
do you know of Vanquish? Because I mean, that's one that I don't think a lot of people are as familiar with.
No, I do not know Vanquished.
So it was a third-person shooter, action third-person shooter game. And the cool thing about it was that you could slide along the ground. And so it was very stylish in that way. And I think that that's probably why people are so excited about it, because it was a very cool looking, stylish game that hopefully when it comes will sell very well and kind of drive towards a Vanquish 2. So we'll see. My prediction, and this is something I was going to touch on with the State of Play stuff, but I think that's one of the... Did you? I think it was free for PS Plus actually one month. I think that's why I had it on PS3.
I think that's why I played it. Yeah. And you kind of, is that the one where you can kind of like build up the world by like using your powers?
Oh, I'm not sure on that part. I don't know much about it other than the sliding and the shooting.
Okay.
So I'd have to look at it more, but you get a chance to look it up. I think that is actually one of those games that gets announced at State of Play next week or at the Game Awards. I think and since he said none of them have been leaked, since you said that, that could be a very good possibility. I think that that's just going to be something at State of Play that they're going to allow Sony to possibly announce, but we'll see about that. We shall see. So that's going to wrap it up for the news really for this week. Those were the big stories that I was able to find over the past week. The only other big one that I wanted to report on kind of ties into topic kind of stuff. And that is that people were pretty upset, I guess, because there was a couple of reports that pointed out that when Sony releases the PlayStation 5, that some of the games on there that are launch games and that are coming to PlayStation 5 will not be cross-gen. And so I don't know if they're talking about third-party titles. I don't know if they're talking about first-party and second-party titles, or if they're talking about most titles or just certain ones. But I've seen that all over Twitter today, that people were pretty upset about that. And I wanted to run that past you and ask what you thought, because for me, I look at this as Resogun, Contrast, and a couple of other games that escape me at the moment that launched with the PS4. There was 25 titles. Not all of them. There was a good chunk of them that were PlayStation 4 only. You could not get them cross-gen. Resogun and Contrast jump immediately to mind, but I wanted kind of your thoughts on the fact that what happens if none of the games announced for PS5 are cross-gen? Killzone Shadowfall was the other one I was thinking of.
What if none of them are?
Yeah. What if they announce Horizon Zero Dawn 2? I'm just throwing this out, right? And none of these are probably going to be ready yet. Spider-Man 2, and then they announce something like Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, and then they announce something like some other little indie title that's like Resogun that has Sony's support. What they say, well, there's these big 7 or 8 games right off the bat, plus another 10 or 15 smaller ones, and none of them are cross-gen. How would you feel about that?
I mean, you know me, Robert. It's not going to affect me. I mean, I'm going to get it.
No, I know, but...
I mean, yeah, I don't... I can certainly see how people would be upset and why that might deter them from buying the system right off the bat. But at the same time, if they're only available on the new system, that's certainly a way for Sony to get people to buy the new system quickly like they want to do, correct?
Yes, and we did talk about that.
Right. We've already talked about that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You don't know? Wouldn't bother you, though?
It wouldn't bother me personally, because I know that I'm going to get that console. But I do see how people could be mad about it. But I don't know. Could that be the kind of tactic of this generation that Sony shoots themselves in the foot with?
It could be, and this is the thing, though, and that's kind of goes back to my point. If Sony wants you to switch over to the PS5 as quickly as possible, having cross-gen titles that are very big deal. Kind of like Call of Duty Ghosts, right? Was, I think, a cross-gen title, if I remember correctly. But that's Call of Duty. Right. I'm not going to buy a PS4 suddenly for a slightly prettier Call of Duty. But
right.
When I saw Resogun, when I saw Killzone Shadowfall, when I saw Contrast, I went, okay, these are, knack. Not that knack really did anything, but just as an example, right?
Right.
Drive Club was supposed to be a launch title, didn't come out till a year after. But it's the idea when you Flower, I think, it was on PS3 already, came to PS4, so that doesn't really count either. But it's the idea when you have these games like that are exclusive to the new console, that makes me want to buy the new console. We've talked about this, I think, before on this podcast. I've heard on plenty of other podcasts. The PlayStation 4 is so good that I want a new console, but I also am okay with more games for my PS4 because it's just so good. I don't feel like I'm aching. I'm not playing Death Stranding going, oh, if I just had a new gen console, or playing Jedi Fallen Order going, oh, if I just had a new console, I'm not cringing. Right. And, there's no shortage of games where I'm like, oh, shoot, really? Medieval remaster on PS4. What are we coming to,
Yeah.
And so I don't foresee this being an issue. I think you need to do that, like you said, if you want people to sell. And if that's one tactic that you're doing to do so, I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. It happened at the beginning of last gen, and I didn't hear anybody complaining about Resogun or complaining about, some of the other games that I mentioned already that I just completely blanked on. But, mentioning Drive Club, even though it was a year late, or talking about Killzone Shadowfall. I didn't hear people going, oh, I can't believe that Killzone Shadowfall is not a cross-gen title. No one was complaining. And so I don't understand where these complaints are coming from. I understand if you are happy with your PS4 and you're afraid, but I guarantee you that most of your third-party titles are probably going to be cross-gen. You're still going to get your Assassin's Creed on PS4.
Right.
Ubisoft wants to make money. You're still going to get your Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, whatever they decide to call the next modern one, right? Or Black Warfare, or whatever they decide to call it. Ghost 2, whatever. You're still going to get those. There's no way that those companies are not going to hit both things. But part of, I guess, the report that I saw also include the fact that PlayStation 4, and I'll have to look up where to see where I saw this, but that PS5 would be their main focus after 2020, and that after like 2021 PS4 games, they would no longer, bring PS4 or bring PS4 games out. Right? PlayStation was moving forward with PlayStation 5. So I don't know. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I think big studios are going to be cross-gen no matter what. They're not going to, they're not worried about, they're worried about making money for their games, right? So they're going to do it no matter what. So I think you're right in this, from the standpoint that Ubisoft, EA, games like that they're going to be cross generation. So what if the exclusives that are already going to be PlayStation 5, why not just make them PlayStation 5? Well, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't either. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that, because it seems like there's a lot of news that came out this week with Sony's 25th anniversary, and that was probably the one that seems to have drawn the ire of most people. The other thing that did come out this week too was Sony's State of Play, and I was wondering what you thought might be shown there.
Oof.
Because it's Tuesday, December 10th, so it's a day or two before the Game Awards.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think Sony comes out with?
I really don't know. Like,
let me run a couple things past you while you think about that, and you can tell me. Try to think and listen. I think we get a release date for Dreams. It's been leaked, but not officially announced.
Okay.
And oddly enough, I think today's the last day. We're recording this on a Saturday. I think today's the last day to purchase early access for Dreams. They said after today, I believe it was going off the store.
Oh, okay.
And so I think it gets a full release date, February 14th, 2020. I think we get a Ghost of Tsushima update because they recently updated the playlist for Ghost of Tsushima. Like they cleaned it up and edited it, and like they were going to add something to it.
Right.
I think we get those two. I think we get the Bayonetta Vanquish announcement. Possibly. That's a long shot. I think we definitely get the RE3 remake announcement there. I think that's where we get that, because that's big they saw how big PlayStation 2, or not PlayStation 2, Resident Evil 2 did this year. And I'm sure they contacted Capcom and were like, how would you like to announce your RE3 remake on our State of Play?
Yeah.
Right. That'll be their big, I think, final announcement. I think that'll be the last one. I think Dreams will be somewhere in the middle. We're at the very beginning, right? So they can just get that out of the way. I think Ghost of Tsushima, if Ghost of Tsushima appears, it's the last one. If not, it's not, then it's not there, right? Because I think that could also be an update just to show us something behind the scenes, or maybe tease a date. I don't think they'd be worried too much about teasing a date for that, because they're not going to step on Last of Us Part 2's toes, because everybody's already pumped for that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we get some sort of "this is on the store now" announcement, maybe some sort of small title, like kind of like the last State of Play had the Arise and a couple other games announced. We're going to get one or two of those. And I think one of them will be, and you can download this now starting today, because it is being aired on a Tuesday, and they update the store every Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, I can see them definitely doing that. Or maybe if even like a bonus free game for the holiday.
Okay, like a PS Plus free additional.
Yeah,
that would be. See that. Yeah, they've done that before. They've done that before with right. They did that with Call of Duty last year, didn't they?
Yeah, Call of Duty at E3, I think, right?
Maybe it was at E3. Yeah, they did something like that in the past. You're right. So maybe we get a free additional PS Plus game for the month.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay,
because I mean, not that the PS Plus are that bad, but nothing to write home about.
Right. Yeah, who hasn't played Titanfall 2 at this point? And actually, I checked PSN profiles, and it always shows the most popular games being played this week. And that Super Motocross has over 2,000 concurrent players on PSN chasing trophies.
Wow.
So people are playing it. And I just laugh because Death Stranding has 6,000 still. Jedi Fallen Order has 3,000. And so Super Motocross is making a splash. Just pointing that out.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Now, again, that's not representative of the whole population, but if there's 2,000 people on a trophy hunting site playing it, I guarantee your average Joe is probably playing it too. Right?
Yeah, right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, also, like, it's a free game. Of course, people can be playing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they be?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, those typically chart every month on there. So that's not unusual. I just thought it was funny that it was actually had more players than Titanfall 2. But again, who hasn't played Titanfall 2 probably at this point as well?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I know I'm going to give Monster Energy Supercross a try. I don't care. Like, it's free.
I mean, why not? It's free. Like, I mean, I've liked Excite Bike all the way back in the day. I mean, which is kind of like a motocrossy kind of a thing. I feel like Trials is kind of a motocrossy kind of a thing. It's more like physics based, but, and like more like tricky kind of a stuff. But, I don't know. Why not?
Exactly. Why not? Why not give it a whirl? I mean, it's
free is free. Like, I mean, what am I going to be mad that I took the time to download it? No.
Yeah. Am I going to be? Yeah. I mean, I can delete it, right? Save the hard drive space.
I can with a press of a button, I can log out of the application. 2 more clicks of a button, I can delete it. Like, it's really not, what I mean? And it's not like I'm going to wait for it to download. I'm just going to like do something else in the background, like Death Stranding or Control. So,
exactly. Yeah, you and I have a very similar mind there. So I'll probably give that a whirl this weekend too, if I can pull myself away from Death Stranding. All right. So anyway, where were we? Oh, so those are kind of the things I'm seeing or thinking about. I don't know. Is there anything we should add to that list?
No. I don't know. Okay. I mean, yeah, with the Game Awards, it's going to be so hard.
Well, I think that they're almost going to probably steal the thunder from Keighley this week if they have RE3 Ghost of Tsushima and a free PS Plus game dropped. Everybody's going to be like, what's going on with the Game Awards? Because this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I feel like Game Awards would feel slighted if they did that. So I don't expect the announcements to be that big, honestly.
Okay. All right. So you're afraid they'll piss off Keighley and they don't want to do that?
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, there's 2 places to announce games, in my opinion, or to a large extent. E3 and the Game Awards, right? One in the middle of the year, one at the end of the year. I don't know. Maybe they already have such a huge list that it doesn't matter. Like, I could definitely see them doing like an Assassin's Creed announcement at the Video Game Awards. Maybe they have, like I said, maybe they have such a big game list that they're like, whatever. You can do what you want with, your first party stuff. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But, obviously they don't want to be too slighted, I'm sure.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But I still do think that a free game would make sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, should we talk a little bit about, move into, and that was kind of like a subtopic, but do we want to go ahead and talk about PlayStation's 25th anniversary this week?
I think we should.
Okay. So I'm going to let you kick this one off for our topic today, because you seemed like you said you had done some research and had looked into a few things. So I kind of want to hear what's cooking on in that brain.
Well, it's funny. I was doing research more about this one game that I absolutely hated. So that's why if I sounded distracted in the beginning of the podcast, I was looking through a huge list of driving and racing video games on Wikipedia so I could figure out what this game was that I absolutely hated. But anyways, no, I mean, 25 years. Think about that, Rob. We've been alive for 35 years because we're old. Well, you're almost 35 years old. But I mean, that's like the formative years of our life, right? It's 10, at 10 is when PlayStation kind of came out for us. And those are like primetime video gaming years, in my opinion, right? So, I don't know. I feel like we've grown up with PlayStation. Like, I mean, totally. we have a PlayStation podcast for a reason, right? Like, this is exactly what the reason we have this podcast is because we've kind of grown up with this system. So to kind of celebrate 25 years of it is kind of insane when you think about it. Like, I don't know, it just is. And like just thinking about all the games over the years, like even when I was looking up the game that I hated, a couple like random games that I had like not thought about in like, I don't know, 15, maybe 20 years kind of popped in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, I loved that game. Like, you know what I mean? Just like to look back on all the games that we've actually played over the years, it's pretty insane.
So yeah, let's talk about. Well, I guess what I want to ask you first is: did you or have you actually? Did you buy a PlayStation right off the bat? I guess is maybe where I'm trying to get at. Did you own, because it came out December 3rd, 1994. Did you own one? Because I don't think I actually bought one until 1996. Because 1996 sticks out to me because I remember being super excited about having a PlayStation, getting demo discs, and playing stuff like Medieval and Crash Bandicoot over and over and over and over again. And so I guess that's what I was wondering, is if that was the first system. It was not the first system you owned, but if you bought it right away, if that was, you know, something that you bought later on.
Honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't remember, like, if I would have had it like the day it came out. I don't think so. I mean, certainly with the later systems, because I would have had enough money to get things on my own, you know, and would have been able to save up for that. But, you know, back in the day, obviously you're you know, it's the formative years, but you're still at the mercy of your parents and what they're willing to buy you. Right. I mean, I definitely did have one, but I honestly don't know when I would have gotten it. When it first, like if I got it when it first came out or a year or two later, I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, I've always had a PlayStation, right? Like
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah. So, because I'm thinking back, like back in the day, we had Nintendo. We never had a Super Nintendo. We had a Genesis. Yeah, I think, like the kind of timeline of my life, it was regular Nintendo because my brothers, you know, because of my older brothers, and then Genesis with me, and then PlayStation 1 through, you know, 4, going soon to be 5. And then, of course, I think I bought like maybe N64 along the way for myself as well, because there were so many good games on N64 that I was like, I can't pass this up. I've certainly like bought a Wii here and there as well. I've bought Nintendo products along the way. So like the Wii and the Switch Lite. So yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly if I had it in the beginning, but I certainly played a ton of games on that system. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was only maybe a couple years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I guess, do you have a favorite game? Because when I think about PlayStation 1, I think of Resident Evil, all 3 of those games. I think of Final Fantasy 7. I think of Silent Hill. I think of Metal Gear Solid 2, or maybe it was the original Metal Gear Solid. I think it was original Metal Gear Solid. Those are all games. I think of Tekken 3, and I think of probably, if I had to pick one more, I'd probably say Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. I think of those as the games that defined PlayStation for me. Is there any games that particular defined it for you?
Yeah, I mean, looking into those like racing games, like I think that's kind of what, like the destruction kind of racing games, like Twisted Metal was certainly huge. And there was a lot of games that were like that. A game that kind of popped into my view when I was looking through the list was Vigilante 8. I don't know if you remember that game.
Oh, yes, I do. Vigilante 8?
Vigilante 8. I played the crap out of that game.
Me too.
Right? And that's a game that you don't, because Twisted Metal is such a huge title, that's a game you don't really think of right away, right?
Yeah. So, I love that game, though.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was a game that popped up on the list called Rogue Trip. I don't know if you remember that. That was kind of like a weird, like macabre kind of racing game. Like it's like with like weird, like oddity-ish people in it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And Tekken, I think, was another huge game that was kind of like in my formative years. I would say also Soul Blade. Now I don't know if people know that it has since become Soul Calibur, or was it vice versa? Is the new ones are Soul Calibur, right? Yeah. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. So the original one was called Soul Blade.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, because that was a game that like my brother loved to play. So like, I'm certainly going to play games that, we have in the house. But yeah, kind of growing up, those were like the games that looking back, those are the games that I kind of like sunk a lot of time into.
Yeah, so those are some of the I forgot about some of those. Vigilante 8, man, when you bring that up.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
That was that was an incredible console. And I have to be honest, I think I remember more games from PlayStation 1 than I probably do from PlayStation 2. When I think about PlayStation 2, and so if those are some of your favorite games from PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 had stuff like Resident Evil 4, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Need for Speed Most Wanted, God of War 2, God of War, God Hand, Shadow of the Colossus. I look at the dates of some of those games, and I think what happened was I was graduating college, and I was, for some of them, I was in college and starting to graduate undergrad, right, from 2007, stuff like that, and 2006, halfway through college. Yeah. And I start to realize that that's probably why I didn't play as much PlayStation 2. I think it was just a time in my life when I didn't have the time, because when I look
at a lot more stuff going on.
Yeah, I had a lot more stuff going on. So when I look back at that, I remember Splinter Cell. I remember the Simpsons game. I remember Max Payne. But
yes, Max Payne. Oh my gosh.
I don't remember though, being like there were more games on PlayStation 1 than I can probably say I played than PlayStation 2. Which is weird because PlayStation 2 is the second best selling console, or top selling console of all time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so you hear that and you think, well, how could I have not played as many? I guess maybe it was just the timing, but not that I didn't love that console. I did. It's just, PlayStation 1 was more memorable, I think, because I was a kid.
Yeah.
We were kids. So
I am looking up PS2 games now. One game that kind of sticks out in my mind, Def Jam Fight for New York.
Oh
my God. I played a ton of that. I love that game. Playing as like rappers, and it was like a wrestling kind of game. Like it was, it was a fighting game, obviously, but kind of reminded me of because of the crazy stuff you did, kind of reminded me a little bit of like WrestleMania 2000 or, on like N64, like that kind of a style to a certain extent.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you had to choose between PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, which one would you rather have kept around?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. That's tough. I mean, I think
PlayStation 2 sold more.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I'm kind of in the same boat where, like with you, where there's a lot of games where I remember on PlayStation 1, probably because when you're a kid, that's kind of what sticks out in your mind. But looking back into some of the titles that I see now in front of me, like, Grand Theft Auto, Vice City. I mean, come on. How much did we play that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that was kind of like the taking off point in my mind of what Grand Theft Auto was going to become. And like, kind of like the music that they licensed for the game. And just like, it was just a complete game, like a very complete, like awesome game all around where you're just like, man, I just want to drive around in the car and listen to this awesome soundtrack. You know what I mean? Like, if nothing else, like there's like a ridiculous 80s soundtrack to go along with the craziness that's happening in the game. I don't know. I probably PlayStation 2, honestly. I probably, I've certainly probably played a lot more of those games. Again, not necessarily ones that stick out in my mind excessively right now. But if I were to really go back, just like, the game, like the racing games I was going through, if I were to really go back and look at some of these games, I'm like, oh, yes, that was PlayStation 2. Oh, yeah, that too. 100%.
So I'm going to be kind of the devil's advocate here. And I'm going to say that because of my experiences with a lot of PlayStation games versus PlayStation 2 games, I loved PlayStation 2 games, but I think I'd rather have a PlayStation 1 than a PlayStation 2. Just for the simple fact that if we're boiling down to quality of games, I think PlayStation 2 certainly had a lot, but I think nostalgia wise, I think I would rather have a PlayStation, an original PlayStation, because I just think there are too many games that, and I know that maybe for a lot of people that's blasphemy because they're thinking of all the great games that came out with PlayStation 2. Even if as I look through this list, I'm like, wow, that'd be really hard to give up a lot of these games.
Right.
But I also never played a lot of them. And so, I didn't get into Persona until Persona 4 came to Vita. And so 2 and 3 on PlayStation 2 didn't mean anything to me. Drakengard didn't mean anything to me. But Nier Automata is one of my favorite games of all time. And so, right, it's this weird thing where I would probably prefer the PlayStation because I have better memories with it.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, so...
Army Men? Man.
So PlayStation 2, obviously, right, big deal. One of the, best-selling console of all time. Let's move into... Do we have any specific memories or any good things to say about PlayStation 3? Because it got off to a really rough start.
I was we could say sucker, I guess, that bought the 60 gigabyte for the excessive $500 price. Because it's like,
what's funny about that 60 gigabytes is that wouldn't even hold half the games now that we play.
Oh, absolutely. I know it's kind of crazy looking back. But I'm trying to think. I do remember playing it so much that I got that like red death, the orange light of death or whatever it's called. Like it was like the red ring of death for Xbox, but it was like a weird orange light for PlayStation or something like that. So kind of like my biggest memory that sticks out was the fact that I fixed it enough to trade it into GameStop.
That's funny.
Yeah, I did like this weird method. I got it to restart. I uploaded all my or downloaded like my save files so I could hang on to those. And then I immediately took it to GameStop, traded it in. I was like, here, you deal with this bull crap. And it turned on, so they took it. So thank you, GameStop. Also, a place that I would frequent in my formative years. But I don't know. I think Fallout 3 sticks out in my mind.
Okay. Fallout 3 is a huge deal for me, yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge, huge game. Like that's what's coming to mind the most because I platinumed every bit of that game. Like 100% platinum, DLC 100%. I was just immersed in that game. And then kind of looking back, also like all the NHL games that came out year after year and playing the crap out of those all the time.
Oh yeah, you and I were, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We were huge on that.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of looking up those kind of games or, looking back, those are the things that those are the few that stick out in my mind immediately. Obviously there were those issues, especially with pricing and things like that. Obviously Last of Us. Come on. What kind of person would I be if I didn't say The Last of Us? Uncharted, obviously. Infamous. These are like crazy games that kind of, started these franchises or, the formative games of these franchises. BioShock. I don't remember getting into BioShock right away. And I don't even think, did it even come out on PlayStation right away? Do you remember?
I don't. In fact,
I thought it was an Xbox exclusive for a while.
It might have been.
And then it kind of came out later. But BioShock, both the original and Infinite, I wasn't a big BioShock. I didn't really get into BioShock 2, but yeah. Modern Warfare was like probably like one of the last Call of Duty games I played. And of course, all the Assassin's Creed.
Of course.
How could I forget?
PlayStation 3 was interesting for me because I still had my PlayStation 2 in 2010, and I did not buy a PlayStation 3 until then, I think. 2010 was when I bought a PlayStation 3, so it had been out almost 4 years. And I'll never forget, I bought a PlayStation 3 and I was like, oh, I need a controller. And this just tells you how long it had been since I had kind of slipped away from gaming there for a few years. And so Uncharted came out. The first one came out in 2007. I got a PlayStation controller and Uncharted in a bundle pack for $60, I think.
Ooh.
A PlayStation controller. It was a red PlayStation controller and the original Uncharted. And I remember buying it and the guy was like, this game's really good. Trust me. And for once, I remember walking into a GameStop. I had just come back from New Jersey. I was living back at home in Pittsburgh from grad school. And because I didn't want to live in New Jersey. And I picked it up and I went, all right, well, I haven't really played games in a few years, in like 2 or 3 years. I'll take your word for it. And so I remember being blown away. Uncharted was my first game on PlayStation 3. And I have a very vivid memory of that because I remember thinking, oh, this is cool. I'm getting a game and a controller. I wish they did this more often. And I thought, man, this is so cheap. This is amazing. $60 for both of these.
Right.
And that really reignited my love for gaming because I think before that, my PlayStation 2 was a DVD player for quite a number of years. And I think that's why, again, why I have such a negative thing because, or not negative, but I just wasn't, I had like 4 or 5 games that I really hung on to and took everywhere. I took my PlayStation 2 when I moved to New Jersey. But I really didn't have nearly as the collection I did for PlayStation 1. And so my love of gaming waned for half of the PlayStation 2's lifespan. And so that's where it's kind of crazy for me.
How about this throwback? Army of Two.
Yeah, that was one of the next games I picked up. I bought Uncharted. I bought Army of Two. I bought BioShock. And believe it or not, I got to look at the date on it. You're going to laugh, but I think I played through Uncharted. I beat it. And then because Uncharted 2 had come out the year before, I immediately went to GameStop again and picked up Uncharted 2.
Yes. Smart move.
Yeah, so it's funny that sticks out to me as my biggest PlayStation. I'd say it's probably my biggest PlayStation memory because that's when I fell back in love with video games. I played Nintendo a lot as a kid. I played Aladdin, Lion King. I played, on the NES and Super NES and stuff like that. I played all those other games on Genesis. I played stuff. I was a big gamer as a kid. And then PlayStation, right? You and I talked about that. We were, 10, 12 years old when we had those. And so played that through high school. And then I picked up a PlayStation 2 right before college, I guess, give or take, and played it and used it a little bit. But it became mostly a DVD player. And then I took it to grad school with me and it was still a DVD player. And then by then, I think I would love to know what the price was. I can't remember what the price was of a PlayStation 3 when I bought it, but I only got the or the thinner version because the 60 gig, fat one that you had didn't exist anymore.
Right.
I think mine was I forget what size mine is and it's actually, I still have that one in the living room, but it's just funny how that has evolved. And then PlayStation 4, of course, I don't think we need to say much about that. It has been an incredible generation and one of probably my favorite generation. If PlayStation was my most nostalgic, PlayStation 4 has been my favorite gen for so many reasons. I don't know. I mean, kind of looking back on the list of PlayStation 3 games that I have in front of me, man, I've played so much of that. I could see why my PlayStation gave out. I was like, oh yeah, played those, played all that. But I mean, it's hard to deny what this generation has done for gaming in general and the games that have come out and just been absolutely ridiculous. Oh yeah, totally ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, just that, even Horizon Zero Dawn just kind of almost coming out of nowhere to a certain extent, right? Not that people didn't think it was going to be good, but man, it really was just I don't know. The story I loved. The gameplay was great. I don't know. Just an all around amazing game. Yeah,
absolutely. It was just, the games we've had this gen are fantastic and they're only going to get better. And PSVR, of course. And we didn't talk about PlayStation Vita, but Vita has served me very well. I think I finally put it to rest with my Switch. Not because I didn't enjoy my Vita, but because games just quit coming out for it for the most part.
Yeah.
I love it. That was one of my favorite little handhelds. I didn't own many, but that's definitely my favorite. I still love, I love my Switch too, don't get me wrong. But PlayStation has done incredibly well over the last 25 years. I'm excited to see where we are in another 10. I can't say 25 because I can't even think about being 60 and playing PlayStation still. I'm sure I will be, but I can't imagine it. And I'm super excited just to see where the next 10 years takes us, because I do think PlayStation 5 is going to really blow our minds next year. And I expect that we will wonder why we didn't upgrade sooner. Right. I just hope, I guess what I do hope for is that we get some very unique games like Death Stranding. I want to go back to some unique off-kilter experiences, because for every Death Stranding that I've played, I could rattle off 7 or 8 Souls-like games that I've played, you know?
Right.
Or I can rattle off how many shooters that I've played, or how many third-person action adventure combat games that I've played. And so Kojima, and I'm not, you know, I know that it's a very divisive game, but I do want more unique games. I do want more games like a Plague Tale Innocence is a fantastic game. I haven't finished it yet, but it's fantastic. Right? Yeah. Death Stranding was fantastic. You know, we got games like Nier Automata, which challenged things and did things differently too. And so I really want more games like that. I want more games that are unique experiences, because I feel like that's why PlayStation 2 stick out in our head, because back then Grand Theft Auto was novel. Resident Evil was novel.
Right.
Right. And so we've developed into franchises and very stereotypical games. People don't take the risks anymore of trying new things. And I think that's why PlayStation 2 were so cool and so memorable to me, because it was like, whoa, I can do that in this game. I can do this. I can go anywhere. I can, you know, I can steal any car. And now it's become the standard. And I think we need somebody else to push it forward. And I think that's what Kojima was trying to do, was push it forward a little bit and say, what if we made a game where, you know, the whole point is to help each other out, to really make connections with people again, and to play a game differently. And I saw a great article as an example of this. And this is why I love PlayStation. This is why I love the risks that people like him can take, and PlayStation supports it. It said, Death Stranding addresses, and I'm getting off in the weeds here, Death Stranding addresses a problem most open game worlds won't admit they have. And it talked about how in most open world games, you can, I'll have to find the author. I can't remember the name of him. I'm sorry about that. It talked about how, and I'll post it on my Twitter once I find it, but how you can traverse in most games, go anywhere you want, and it's not a struggle. And how getting from point A to point B seems very fluid and fast and easy. And so you take it like Horizon Zero Dawn. I never felt like traversal was a problem in that game. You take a game like Fallout 4, traversal is never a problem in that game. Breath of the Wild, traversal is never a problem in that game. You go across the landscape and you don't really appreciate it because you don't, or what they're trying to do with it, because you can just run across it. You can parkour across it.
Right.
And Death Stranding, it's like, am I going to slip on that? Am I going to be able to climb that? Do I need a ladder? Do I need a rope? Can my bike make it up there? You know what I mean? Like there's something that it reminds you that the open world is there at all times. Yeah. It's not, you know, I'm not worried about falling, or I don't think I ever can. I don't think you ever can fall in a game like Horizon Zero Dawn. You know, I don't think she stumbles ever. She runs over anything and everything.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about, and I want more games to take that chance with PlayStation 5. And so I'm really happy that PlayStation's made it 25 years. I'm really happy that we have these games. I've had some great experiences with them, but I'm ready for some fresh ones too. Next gen.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else you want to say about 25 years for PlayStation?
No, I think
we've kind of walked our way through each one of the consoles. We've talked a little bit about what games we enjoyed for each one. Menu wise, I think we talked about startup sounds earlier. PlayStation 1 is still my favorite startup sound. Menu wise, PlayStation 4 is probably the best. I think the UI keeps getting better with each PlayStation iteration. Things I don't miss are memory cards from the first PlayStation. Design wise, do you have a favorite design?
No, what I will say, the one thing I don't miss is that game that I looked up. It's called Felony 1179.
Oh, okay. I don't think I ever played that.
Hate it. Anyways, but yeah, I don't miss memory cards. Wait, you mean like which design of the PlayStation?
Yeah.
Itself?
I'm kind of sucker for PlayStation 1.
Yeah, I mean, it does have just like that classic look to it, but I know it was like big and bulky and dumb and everyone hated it, but I did like the PlayStation 3. It was just like so massive. It was just such a massive machine. You're just like
here I am.
What is this system? Good Lord. Like if a robber came in, you could like legit bash him over the head with it and you know,
it would save your life.
And feel okay about it. Like feel like
saved my life and I didn't break anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just such a hefty device.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, with the classic look of PlayStation 1, I mean, you can't really go wrong. And I'm really interested to see what they do with the new one with PlayStation 5 if they kind of like really like change it up.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Let's say what, Matt, let's move on. I think that's kind of going to wrap it up for us. I don't have anything else at least to say. I don't think you do either, right? Or am I putting words in your mouth there?
No, we got to get through all these drops.
Yeah, let's take it. Yeah, I looked. There's like 18 this week. So we're going to crush these out and take care of See You Soon. And then we're out of here. And so we'll record a couple episodes in the upcoming week so that you guys don't go without or not wanting. When most other podcasts take a break, we will not.
See you soon.
Yeah, this is See You Soon. I think I'm going to take the reins this week and start us off.
All right, let's do it.
Because this one looks like it's up my alley. It's called Ashen. It's out digital 12/12. Ashen is an open world co-op action RPG about a wanderer in search of a place to call home. As you adventure through Ashen, you'll occasionally encounter other players in a massive open world. It's up to you to decide how to deal with them. Fight together against evil, invite them to your party, or simply ignore them.
Interesting. All right, up next, Avicii Invector. Okay, sorry, my bad. I can't read. PS4 digital retail. Soar through vocal melodies, sweep each fade and attack every beat in 25 of Avicii's biggest hits. In this enthralling futuristic rhythm action experience, Avicii Invector. Fly solo or bring the pulse-pounding frenetic energy of an Avicii concert to your living room with your friends in competitive gameplay. Ooh, I don't even know who Avicii is.
Oh, really? He's pretty popular musician. I mean, I'm pretty sure he died last year. I think it was last year. But he was a pretty big deal music-wise. I don't know if you're saying that right. I think it was Avicii might be his name, but I have to look.
My bad.
That's all right. Black Sad, Under the Skin. A dark corruption scandal in the heart of New York City's underworld is a case for charismatic detective John Blacksad. With its anthropomorphic characters and its incredible 1950s feel, Blacksad Under the Skin promises all the eerily dark adventure of a detective novel, just like the eponymous comic book series. Goodness, I'm not used to having 50-cent words in a description. That's great.
Yeah. According to Google, it is Avicii.
Oh, is it? Okay, I wasn't sure. I've never heard it said out loud.
Yeah.
All right.
Next, we got, right, of course. Card Apocalypse, PS4 digital out 12/12. Make friends, play cards, twist the rules, become a Mega Mutant Power Pets master, and try to save the world in this single-player RPG about being a 90s kid. Explore Dudsdale Elementary and build killer card decks to defeat the mutants from everybody's favorite collectible card game that have invaded the real world. Ooh.
Interesting. All right, Dead End Job. Sounds like a lot of people's lives. Dead End Job sends you into a madcap, wacky world to bust up ghosts. It's a procedurally generated couch co-op twin stick shooter. Ooh, that straps a vacuum pack to your back and puts a plasma blaster in your hand. For you, it's just another day in the office. I'm a fan of those twin stick shooters.
Twin stick shooters, I know. I know you are. I heard it from your voice as soon as you read it. Ooh. Yeah. All right. eFootball, they changed their name. eFootball PES 2020 Lite. PS4 digital out 12/9. Experience the E3 Best Sports Game Award winning gameplay with PES 2020, now free to download. Build your dream team in My Club or support your favorite side in matchday mode. Live and breathe the most authentic soccer game ever created, developed with the assistance of renowned midfielder Andres Iniesta.
All right.
So free? I mean, I guess if it's free.
That's the light version, right? So you get the opportunity to test it out. You did that with last year, I think.
I sure did. Right? Yeah.
All right. Eternity X. Sir Arthur has gotten old. Too old. He has lost everything he had and loved, and with nothing more to lose, he leaves for Samarnath, an evil subterranean kingdom which no knight has ever returned alive, in search of his treasures, adventures, and the most important 5 magical orbs that together provide the eternal youth.
Ooh. All right. Up next, Fishing. Barents Sea Complete Edition. PS4 digital. Take the helm of your very own fishing boat and explore the vastness of the Norwegian Sea. Start with a little boat inherited from your grandfather, catch fish, and earn money for upgrades as well as bigger and better boats. Enjoy the beautiful Barents Sea and make your fishing industry dreams come true. Ooh, man. The simulators are getting really far out there.
Yeah, no kidding. Alrighty. Fuji. A magical musical hike through lush, chromatic VR wilderness. Bring dormant landscapes back to life by restoring native flora through light, water, and harmony, while collecting seeds to grow your own enchanted garden. The experience merges aspects of adventure and cultivation into a refreshing, musically enveloping whole. Okay? Goodness.
Wow, he struggled there at the end.
I did. That was rough. I don't know why.
It's okay. We'll move on. They'll forget about it. Gunlord X, PS4 Digital. Gunlord X is a 2D action platformer featuring stunning pixel art, 11 open world stages, nasty creatures, huge boss battles, and a pumping soundtrack. Blast yourself through giant landscapes, explore caverns, and reveal all secrets in this retro-inspired action game. Enjoy the definitive version of this classic masterpiece with tons of new features and updates.
All right. Not too bad, right?
Yeah.
All right. Headliner, Nova News. PS4 Digital. Award-winning adventure where you control... where I guess we're just jumping into it. Award-winning adventure where you control national news. A stack of news articles sits on your desk. It's time to make decisions. After work, you emerge on the streets of Novastan, shaped by the very news you publish. Watch the city change day by day and influence the lives of the four main characters.
All right.
This next one, I just want to say the cover art looks like it's been photoshopped by like a high schooler. No offense to whoever made it, but we could do better.
That's true. All right. Quaidon or Quaidon? What do you think? Quaidon?
Quaidon, probably.
Yeah, Quaidon PS4 Digital out 12/13. Seamlessly combining 3D action and point-and-click adventure, Quaidon provides a nostalgic yet new experience. Explore an old Japanese manor, solve clever puzzles, and fight against monsters called Yoki. Yeah, it'd be weird if you explored an old Japanese manager.
Yeah.
Which is what I almost said.
All right. Oliver's Adventures in the Fairyland. A teenager from the modern world is being summoned into a fantasy world with an important task from a wizard to return the king's stolen treasures. Oliver's Adventures in the Fairyland is an indie adventure game inspired by the best Metroidvania titles. It packs retro graphics, roguelike elements, and classic platforming action.
Cool. All right, up next we got Rift Keeper. And I got to say, the box art on this pretty awesome. PS4 Digital. Duty called and the Rift Keeper woke up from his deep slumber. Embark on your journey, travel through rifts, and restore the balance as the Rift Keeper in this handcrafted 2D roguelite platformer with challenging, fast-paced action gameplay.
All right. Alrighty. Shuttle Commander is out PSVR 12/11. Take command of the space shuttle as it embarks on various missions to the Hubble Space Telescope. Fly the shuttle in a full landing simulation based on real physics and flight dynamics. That's kind of cool. Join the crew on the space shuttle missions and assist in the deployment and servicing of the Hubble.
Ooh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is kind of neat.
Especially in VR. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, Super Epic, The Entertainment War. Okay. PS4 Digital out 12/12. Join a raccoon and a llama in their quest to save video games as we know them. Super Epic is a Metroidvania-style action-adventure game filled with humor and satire. The gameplay is non-linear and fast-paced, with exploration and combo-based combat the weapon of choice against the evil Regnancorp. Regnancorp? Yeah, Regnancorp.
All right. Super Korotama. Super Korotama is an arcade skill game that emulates a classic retro-style arcade machine with different perforated panels where the user can move a metal ball through the vertical bar that can be raised with the machine's joysticks. The main objective of the game is to put the ball in the correct hole while avoiding the rest of the holes.
Ooh.
Now, this next one I hear is like Mario Kart in VR.
Ooh, that's awesome. All right. Touring Karts, PS4, PSVR, digital out 12/12. Touring Karts takes maximum advantage of the possibilities of VR by reinventing kart-type races in the midst of chaos, full of action and surprises. Features 22 tracks and 30 customizable cars, up to 8 players, online multiplayer support with no waiting, and more.
All right. That works.
I feel like there should be another comma in there after up to 8 players.
Yeah, there should be a couple of things throughout these that I've noticed, but you know, who's counting?
Yeah, right. Yeah, who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting? All right. Well, that wraps it up, I guess, doesn't it?
I think that does wrap it up, Robert.
Well, I appreciate us, you hanging out with us. I appreciate you stopping by, you know, chatting with us, listening to us. Matt, thank you as always for, you know, another informative week of goodness.
Thank you as always.
Oh, my pleasure. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks for hanging out. And until next time, I guess, if you like what you hear, you can go find us on Patreon. You can go find us on YouTube. You can go find us on Stitcher, Podbean, podcast services of your choice. So please feel free to do so. We would love to hear from you or to have your patronage as well. And until next time, I suppose, let's just continue to game on.
Game on. Ooh, the original PlayStation outro music. Yes.
I'll take it.